The truth is not out there. And it's thanks to these guys. They've done everything they can to hide people, to hide injustices, and to even literally hide the cries of those people that are suffering.
Welcome to the React19 podcast, where we bring awareness and support to the COVID-19 vaccine injured and discuss the science, research, and laws that affect all of us. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again today. I'm Ann Forty, the host of the React19 podcast, and today my guest is filmmaker Mathew Guthrie, who recently released his first feature film, Follow the Silenced, The Hidden Story of the Cost of Censorship. It is a powerful story chronicling the most censored, gaslit, and abandoned demographic of people in recent history, and that group, of course, is the COVID vaccine injured. It's truly almost beyond comprehension what has taken place, which is why this film is so compelling and likely the reason why it won Best of Show when it previewed at the Directors Guild of America at the Santa Monica Film Festival. Mathew, thank you so much for being here today, and congratulations on receiving this well-deserved award for crafting such a powerful film.
Well, thank you, Ann. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all of this incredible advocacy work that you do. You know, it takes a village to make the impact that we need in this country and in this world when it comes to these topics. So it's something where we all have to band together to get the right thing done.
Yeah, as you said, we're stronger together, and that's why we want to keep pushing this message forward. And I want to let all the listeners and viewers know right away that if you have not seen this film yet, it is available to watch for free. And the link will be in the show notes. So please watch it, share it with your family, friends, lawmakers, journalists, medical professionals, because some of them honestly don't know, which seems remarkable to us, but please share it. It is so important that the silence be heard and helped. And Mathew, I have been in communication with the COVID vaccine injured from the beginning of the rollout. And I still wake up every day utterly dismayed that, as your film so poignantly shows, so clearly, that there are people throughout our government agencies and all through our medical institutions that know what is happening. I mean, they knew even before the rollout began what was happening, and they still know what's happening, and they still remain, the injured still remain unrecognized and abandoned, which is why films like yours are so important, and I believe are certainly making a difference in moving the needle. So, you know, as I watch this, I'm thinking to myself, how did Mathew ever get into this? So if you could just kind of share your backstory, how you came to even make this film, and then we'll talk about the film itself.
Certainly. And, you know, before I say that, I should mention, you know, on your note about the government, one thing that you should never expect from any government in this world is for them to investigate themselves and find out they did anything wrong. You know, it's a great error that we have as a society, to think that we're going to get accountability from these people, because we won't. And so, yeah, to answer your question, you know, essentially, I saw right away that there was a problem. In the very beginning of the pandemic, HBO released a film, a two-part documentary series called The Crime of the Century, which I highly advise everybody to take an opportunity to see. There's a documentary filmmaker named Alex Gibney, and he's made some just world-class, incredible films. He's one of the best documentary filmmakers, I think, out there. So I got a lot of love for him, and I always appreciate his work. This film, two-part series, was an expose on the opioid crisis. Really fascinating is when you get into this film and you start to understand the level of corruption that went into the opioid crisis. It was the absolute most perfect context that you could have prior to Operation Warp Speed and the rollout of these vaccines.
Interesting.
You saw the total capture. I mean, you saw them in the film. I mean, they even say that, for example, that there are people that obviously are displaying the symptoms of addiction, that are synonymous with an opioid addiction, right? And these are people that are on these various opioids that were predominantly prescribed by, developed by Purdue Pharma at the time. So, so you have physicians telling the drug companies, well, wait a minute, I have patients coming in that are obviously addicted to opioids. Like, these are people that are displaying all of the same symptoms that a heroin addict would display when they're in between trying to get the hits that they need. So instead of looking at that and recognizing that, the drug companies come back and say, oh, well, that's pseudo addiction. It may appear to be addiction, but that's not really what it is. Like, these are not the droids you're looking for. I mean, and that's the thing, is like, you sort of realize that the FDA runs on Jedi mind tricks, really, in a way of speaking, but it's true. So that series really opened my eyes. I think that seeing that film was a great thing, because for me, I feel like
you saw that before the COVID hit.
It was released as the lockdowns happened.
Okay,
like, the lockdowns are happening. So, and what do people do in the lockdowns? They're just absorbing media. And that was I'm kind of surprised, to be honest with you, that more people didn't watch that film and then have that context going into.
No, that's really interesting. But actually, take us back even further, because I think it's important for if you could share just what happened to you as a child. Because I know you don't want to give the impression that you're anti-doctor or anti, all medication and all this, because, I've heard you share the story of when you were young, you were in the hospital a lot.
Yeah, I was a real sick kid. And, I think, honestly, all these years, I'm 41 years old now. I think nowadays I'm starting to realize that a lot of the things that was happening to me as a child are likely from vaccine injury. It's likely from side effects from the pertussis shot. And it did. I basically spent about the first 6 years of my life in a hospital. I was there every other week. I had pneumonia like 6-7 times a year, was in oxygen tents. It was horrible asthmatic, and I was just a very, very sick kid. So, I had a parking spot at the hospital basically that I would pull up to because I was there that often.
Wow.
And I'm a little kid, and my friends are nurses. I'm seeing them all the time. And you felt you were well cared for, and absolutely. And I had a huge amount of respect and admiration and love for the medical community, and I still do. But don't get me wrong. But then
you had what happened with your sister?
Yeah, and then my sister is not with us anymore, because in 1993 she passed away essentially from medical malpractice. She had Rocky Mountain spotted fever that was misdiagnosed by multiple physicians. And there were, out of 3 physicians that were all guilty of this, one of them was egregiously sort of the worst at it, and it was just outright negligence. And my sister had a very serious grand mal seizure right in front of us, and then she was on life support for a few days, and my mom had to make the worst decision that you could possibly make as a parent, and that's to shut the life support off on your daughter.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, because I think I heard you say right before she had this seizure that basically killed her, a doctor had come in and said, like 10 minutes before this seizure happened or something like that, and said, oh, she's fine. She just needs to, not be a brat or something. Yep. And 10 minutes later, she has the seizure.
Yep.
It's 9 years old, 7 years old.
I was 9 years old. She was 7 when she passed away. So, obviously that fractures your trust in the medical, industry, because one of the things you don't realize until you start to tangle with this system is that just because somebody walks in a lab coat and tells you that they're a doctor, it has MD at the end of their name, doesn't mean that they're a good doctor, doesn't mean they're a good physician, doesn't mean that they're somebody that is a caring, empathetic person.
Right.
It just means that they went through med school. Doesn't mean that they're any good at it. And I think there's an unfortunate thing in this country that we all blindly want to accept whatever a physician tells us as gospel. And that's one of the most dangerous things that you can do. There was a time when we looked for second and third opinions and then used our informed consent and gathered that information to make a proper decision about what was right for our healthcare moving forward. And these days, look at the messaging that you had during COVID. It was trust us, trust the experts, don't listen to these people. You don't need a second opinion. It's it's not healthcare anymore, and it really, it's become
It's
a problem that is much worse than we see as a nation.
it's like Deb Conrad says in your film, which, you could do a whole film on her and just everything she went through. She's reporting on, she's trying to report to VAERS and whatnot. And she was highly credentialed. I mean, she'd won awards for her work, but in your film, she said, I can't believe, I go through all of medical school. I would have never imagined this, but I was so naive that I just didn't realize that medicine is a business. And it shouldn't be that way, but the reality is medicine is a business.
Yeah.
And so, okay, well, we could go off in a million different directions here again, because there's so much in your film. But so it's the beginning of COVID. And so how is it that you end up meeting these
How did I get
people
into
that you
this?
make a film about?
Well, I had seen, obviously, when when Angelia DeSalle and the other, and Sean and had come forward, the first three nurses that had serious neurologic reactions. They were
Yeah.
having tremors. I mean, I saw that right away, and there was no part of me that looks at that and says, "Oh, this person's faking it," right? Because it's like, logically, when you look at it, it's like, well, what does this person have to gain? What does anybody have to gain to go to social media and post themselves in extreme distress with
Yeah, and
these
then be told that
body
they're
parts?
lying and
Yeah,
being taken off. I mean, that happened to
yeah,
Sean, that happened, oh, and
yeah.
Angela, all of them.
Absolutely. And
Uh,
that to me was a big indicator. It's like, okay, clearly something's happening to these people, but the degree to which it got shut down so quickly, for me, being a history person, that was just indicative of somebody trying to control a narrative. That's somebody trying to shut down a story. Um, Fast forward a few months, and then I had got to go to the High Wire. My dear friend Chase Anderson was working at the High Wire at the time, and he said, "Man, you should come up here and talk to these folks and see what this is about." I'm like, okay, great. Well, that happened to be the day that they were airing the
oh, that
taping
interview?
of those nurses, of the Angelia, Sean,
Okay.
and Kristen. So I was in there listening to their story, just overwhelmed. It's like, my
Yeah.
God, this is incredible. I mean, obviously these women are telling the truth. How could you say they weren't? And then shortly after that was when the Milwaukee press conference
Yeah,
happened,
with Bree
with
and
Bree and Stephanie and
Maddie
James,
and yeah.
and those would be the people that I would meet. And I had no idea that I was going to meet them or that I was going to get connected to them. So I was working on some other shows and content at the time. I ended up in Costa Rica working on some stuff and with a dear friend of mine, who's one of the best animal cinematographers. He does wildlife. He does Blue Planet, Planet Earth. He's a brilliant cinematographer, and I was down there working with him. And I'd had some experiences in the jungle. All of a sudden, within a few days, I got messages from a dear friend that I hadn't heard from in like 5 years. That is someone I consider very, very close to God. And you know that when you know those people, there's this, it's like they're this living angelic person in human form. And if you ever meet one of those people, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
You know, they stand out. And she reached out to me out of nowhere and said, "Hey, I just had this thing that God wanted me to tell you." And she says basically that you have a gift with people and you need to use this, and people have a way of disarming with you, and you can get to the root. I'm paraphrasing it now, but
Right.
it's really sweet. And it's like, that's really interesting, because at the time I was wondering, should I get more into wildlife cinematography and you know, I'm more of a people person, but this was a
Right.
new field. So I thought, hey, let's try it. Well, then a couple of nights later, in the middle, I think it was about 5 a.m, I woke up, and I've always been somebody that I love Jesus very much, and I always have. And it's something that he's always been very close to me, I guess. And it's just always been there in my life.
Mhm.
Even before I knew who he was, like, he was there. And my mom would tell me that I would talk about this when I was a little kid. I don't remember it, but I woke up and it was like, I knew he was there. And it was like, he woke me up and he told me, basically, he's like, "You get up, go to the bridge, we need to talk." And there was this bridge that over, you know, it connects the research facility to the jungle where we worked. So we would hang out on this bridge in the morning and have coffee before our day would start. So I get up and I go to the bridge, and I just feel this, him talking to me. And it's a strange thing when you get like direction, divine direction. It all happens at once, right? You get
Right.
you get an emotion, you get visuals, you get words, but it's just like a download, you know. And in that moment, it was like he basically said, you know, I need you to do this story, and I built you to do this story. And I felt like there was this sort of like, and he told me, he's like, this is going to be heavy, it's going to hurt, and it's going to take from you in a way. It's like I just knew that it was like this yoke, right? Like the biblical yoke that would be put on you. And I felt that. Like I quite literally had this feeling of somebody putting this very heavy thing over my head and on my shoulders, like a physical experience. And I remember my buddy came out to the bridge that I was working with, and I'm just in tears. I mean, I'm just bawling my eyes out because I'm having all of this emotion. And he's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I don't know." It's like, and I was trying to talk through it. Like, something's happening. I know that something's coming at me. And what's funny, if you talk to my friends that knew me in 2018 and 2019, I started telling them there's a documentary feature coming at me that I need to get ready for. And I knew it. And I actually changed all of my gear, and I upgraded my production company's production value to a level that I couldn't afford. I didn't have clients to support, but it was like very clear. You have a film coming at you. You have to prepare for it.
Wow.
And then that was the first moment in those years of preparing for whatever this was. That was the first time that it was like, here's what it is.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Abraham went out not knowing whither he went. Like you are preparing for something. I don't know what I'm preparing for, but I'm preparing for something.
And that's true. And that's how faith works. You know, you take the step. You don't need to know if your foot's going to hit anything. You just have
you
to
just do the next thing. It's like, okay, this is what you've given my hands to do today. I'll be faithful with that. And then I'm going to move on to the next thing.
Yeah. So then
okay, so
I got a call and sorry, go ahead.
No,
the last part of that is I got a call on the Jungle Tower. My phone hadn't rang in weeks, and it was Chase, my buddy, saying, "Hey, Mickey Willis wants to meet you." And I was like, "Where do I know that name from? I know that name. Why do I know that name?" And sure enough, I left Costa Rica. I got home, and my plan was I was going to go to Dell Bigtree, and I was going to pitch Dell on making this film. I was going to go around the country by myself, keep the costs low, because I knew I could do it if I just did it alone. I wouldn't have to pay for anybody else to do it, just me. And I was going to go to Dell and say, you know, finance me to do this. Like, I want to make a film and cover this story, because I knew there was more to it that we're seeing. And before I could, I got on a phone with Mickey, and I'd never met Mickey. I didn't know him at the time, but it was one of those things where you meet somebody and you know that it's like your soul brother. Okay, and before we even exchanged a word, it was like we knew each other.
Wow.
And right there, he was like, he asked me to make the very same, I mean, to the word. Wow. They asked me to make the movie I was just about to go pitch to Dell.
Wow.
And we've been working together ever since. So then I took off.
Where are we? We're at the end of 21 at that time.
No. This was June. So I got back in it was end of July, first week of August, 2021.
Yes.
And then 3 weeks later, I had done my first interview, and that was with Steve Kirsch. And Steve's an incredible person. I have
he's gonna hang on to this. I mean, he just keeps going. He just next, you know.
He is a machine, and he is so incredibly intelligent and compassionate. And you know, that's the thing is, like, you know, I don't think people really, especially anybody that has problems with Steve, I don't think they are listening to him and
I think he's misunderstood. I do think
he is
understood.
He's very misunderstood. But you know, he's somebody that just wants justice, and he's compassionate, empathetic. But anyway, I got my first interview with Steve, and somehow I got connected to Ken Rutgers, and then Ken said, "Hey, you need to talk to Bree Dressen." And I didn't know who Bree was at the time, but the moment I got on the phone with Bree, within minutes I knew, like, this was the person that I knew I needed to find. Like,
you guys have similar personalities. You're really heavy grace, like you're really heavy on grace, like where I might be like, oh, you know, Bree, you can be a little angry. You know, she's so forgiving. I'll tell you, Jay Bhattacharya, I've talked to Jay Bhattacharya several times about the COVID vaccine injured, and he too, I mean, for what Francis Collins did to him, you know, throwing him under the bus, he too, you guys, all three of you have that very similar, like, forgiveness, or there's that other side, maybe that prophet that wants to come in and say justice, with a axe, and you guys are kind of, so yes, I'm sorry. Anyway,
No, and
moving
that's
on.
and it's a struggle. Trust me. It's like that's the thing is like there are definitely days where you have to remind yourself, love thy enemies. Love that. I don't have enemies. I just have friends that don't know it yet. It's like you have to. Some days there you are
Yeah,
certainly
no,
more
you're
than
right.
others when it comes to that.
You're
But
right.
it's the only avenue. It's the only avenue forward that actually creates solutions. Honestly, it is because and one of the problems I think we are angry at each other as a nation
Mm,
for being victims of propaganda
mm,
on each side of this ideological divide for whatever it is. And it's sad because our government has spent decades and probably trillions of dollars
mm.
on these programs, that were called MK Ultra and a variety of other names. And the whole purpose of those programs is to find out how to control the
Right.
human mind. I mean, you talk about like the mother of all defense initiatives. How do you control human consciousness? And we've spent a lot of time and money in that. And we have to stop holding each other accountable for being victims of that system. Like we shouldn't be angry at each other. It's going to
Right.
get us all. And we're all victims. Every one of us is victims of propaganda every day from our own government. And we have to stop being angry at each other for it and realize we're in this together.
Yeah.
This is a problem that we have to fix that's on a federal, hidden sort of defense side.
It's beyond. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're never going to get there if we can't become a
If we
stronger.
just do this to the other side,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, I see you like, I mean, you see it, you see with people. I think part of it is that the side, after you watch this film, most people just don't think. And Bree says this, I say the same thing. You would not believe this was possible had you not walked through this yourself. Like you honestly can't believe your government health agencies would do this. You honestly can't believe that, the heads of these agencies would do this to, a coworker that, a peer that wasn't towing the line. You were just like, no, there's no way that would happen. And your film clearly shows, yes, that does happen, and it did happen, and it's continuing to happen. So there you are. So you start doing the interviews, and you meet Bree, and obviously you get more and more. This becomes, as you start, the film. This isn't just about, okay, I'm going to tell the story of the injured. Then you start realizing this whole other backstory of, oh my goodness, look at what the government's doing. I mean, these people are not only injured, but their government is literally silencing them. And so there's the whole other part of the film, with Peter Marks. And yeah, I don't know if you'd
And
like to expound on
that
that
part definitely surprised me, and I'll come back to that one. But to your point too, one of the great ironies of our culture, and I've seen this for a long time. We love movies, and we can go to the movies and we can watch a film like Jason Bourne, and we can watch movies about government cover up, and we can be fully invested in it, in the edge of our seat in the theater. And part of that feeling that invests you in it is because there is a degree of reality that that your mind subconsciously realizes is so there's a visceral to
Mhm.
reality to it,
Mhm.
right? Like I know that this can happen, and
Yes.
that keeps it
You're
engaging.
like, yeah,
Yeah, it's like of course my government would run this crazy
yeah,
assassin program, blah blah, right? It's like so we can watch these movies and we can be invested in them and connect to them because we feel how that reflects in our real world. But when those things happen in front of our face,
Mm.
in the news and in our daily lives, we refuse to see it for what it is. And that's an astonishing thing. We have to
Yeah,
stop
totally.
shielding ourselves, because and again, also to your point, the reason that good people cannot entertain the wills of evil people, right, is because it's beyond their ability to conceive,
Right,
and
right.
that's the thing. That's why there is really truly terrible and evil things that happen in this country, in our world, and is a part of our world. And the reason that we can't fix those things is because we can't face that they're real, because good people don't want to believe. And again, this is also how most people determine if something is fact or fiction, is they base it on how they feel about the information. And this is a subconscious thing.
Right.
Most of the time, we're not consciously aware that we're doing this. But if you give me a piece of information that I feel like resonates with me,
Right.
well, then I'm going to feel like it's true. But if you give me a fact that doesn't feel good to me, and it's like, no, I can't frame that with my world, so it must be false. That's how the majority of people are. And that's horribly illogical.
And I think the fact that so much evil was done because of ordinary men. I think there was a book called Ordinary Men, and it just talks about the atrocities of World War II. Like, these people that were doing these very evil things were just ordinary men. Yeah, they might have been putting people in gas ovens during the day, but they were home having dinner and, you know, saying prayers with their kids at night. I mean, I always say, you know, any one of us is capable of the most heinous evil under the right circumstances. I don't care. Whatever it is, just. And so when we're faced, okay, like people were, okay, I got to keep my job. I got to do this. I'm going to do this. We're just like, okay, I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to kind of block out anything else. You know, this will be for the greater good. This will be, you know, oh, yep, they're telling me this is for the greater good. Yeah, of course. Yes, this looks completely crazy, but, you know, and yeah. So like you say, you can watch it in a movie, but when it happens in real life and you're faced with it, with real emotions and the real circumstances of life, it becomes different.
Yeah. Well, and you make a good point too. It's like, how did the good people of Germany at that time, right? How did they become monsters and murderers? Like, how do you...
When they saw the ashes on their cars. I read that in a book in college where they would, you know, they knew, okay, they saw these these ashes like covering their, you know, homes or whatever. But I'm telling you, we just kind of lived through that. But
we did, and you're right. But the question is though, what's the first step in that sort of eventuality? Mm-hmm. What's your opinion? What do you think the first thing you have to do to start with neighbors loving neighbors and then ending up in concentration camps? What do you think that first step is?
Well, the first step where you just don't say anything, you're just silent.
I think the first step is dehumanization. You have to dehumanize people. You have to dehumanize.
Yeah, well, and didn't we see that during COVID where it's like, oh, it's the vaccinated. So that one film by, what is it, Grabian, where he's got the Joker and it's like these people turn on each other and then you see clip after clip after clip of just it's the vaccinated, you know, or it's the unvaccinated, and this divide. Oh, and you see Jimmy Kimmel saying, oh, well, you know, if you're unvaccinated, too bad, you know, no room for you. I mean, totally.
And that's the thing. When I saw that, I knew that I had to get involved because I love history deeply. I mean, you can't say, but I have a giant bookshelf over here that's just overrun and is constantly being so. I'm obsessed with history because I think the only way that you can discern the world or the path forward is to deeply understand the past. And that also means looking at the ugliest parts or the most unacknowledged parts. But one of the things you realize is that if you want to destroy a population, if you want to move a country into the conditions that would create something like what happened to the National Socialist movement and the Third Reich, you have to dehumanize people and you have to dehumanize your neighbors. And that's exactly what the United States government has been doing. They've been dehumanizing us. That's why when they started using unclean, unvaxxed, and all of these trigger words, I knew that I couldn't sit and let that happen because I know here and to piggyback on that, you know, look at elections in this country. 10 years ago, or well, let's say prior to 10 years ago, people might have a heated discussion over Thanksgiving dinner in an election season, and that was it. But by Christmas, you know, by January 1st, people go about their lives. Families aren't torn apart by it. It was just we're gonna keep on going, right? Yeah. I mean, and and again, it's like when they started using this terminology, that terminology doesn't go away. It's not subject to an election cycle. It's not subject to a period of time where it's going to gain and lose power. You're setting people up to look at the people in their own family and their own home and their own community as being as dehumanizing them. And that shocked me, and it angered me. And as a person who loves film and a person who loves history, that was the moment that I knew no matter what I had to get in this fight, because I couldn't let that get worse.
Yeah. No, and again, your film, it's really one of the best film I have seen out there that shows all of it, shows the entire story. We go back to Peter Marks in the sense that because I was going to ask you, what was the thing that most surprised you, or you were just like, wow, I wasn't expecting this. Was there anything like that with the people that you met, within the agencies, within the government?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that, I would say that there were several things that there were things that didn't make the film that shocked me, that I'm still hurt that I couldn't put in, because I wanted to release like a 3 to 4 hour movie, because I felt like
which you easily could have.
Which I could have. I mean, I have 150 something terabytes. What is the number? 151.
Oh my.
I can actually, it's still sitting there.
You could have made a mini series out of this.
And I'd still like to be honest.
Yeah,
with
maybe.
you.
Seriously.
There's enough material and there's enough story, and we've already kind of talked in the past about splitting this into a 6-part series that would be about 40-ish minutes a piece. And it would tell an even bigger story, because even what, you have in this film, it's still so much bigger than that. But to answer your question, I think the thing that really shocked me was when Bree told me about the recordings with the FDA, and I'd known Bree a little bit at this time, but then one day, because I would go out and spend, I basically lived at Bree's house for a little bit. I went out there a couple of different times and would stay for days at a time. And I love them. I adore their family. They're like, I consider them family 100%. I'd give them an organ if they needed it. But, I remember she, her preschool's in the basement. And at that time, it was, kind of like a mini apartment. So that was where I would stay when I was working with them. And she came down one night after we'd been filming and basically just kind of dropped this on me, like, I feel like I can trust you, and I have something to show you. And then she told me about the FDA recordings that she'd made. And there is a physician in these recordings that has done an incredible job of holding the regulatory agencies accountable for the real data and the real science. And this person wanted to remain anonymous to protect themselves and their medical license and their family. Which we obviously did, and we take that stuff seriously. I take that stuff very seriously. So, I became a custodian of this information, and went through it, transcribed it. I mean, besides Bree and I don't know if anybody's listened to those recordings more than we have. I've listened to those things to the point where I can nearly recite them like verbatim, and it paints an unbelievable picture of negligence and cover up and denial, because all of the things that the FDA say in these recordings, and I'd say principally, is you got to realize that all these recordings are happening while the government is mandating these things.
That is just what's so shocking. Here it's, January, it's early, January 21, where Denise Hertz is emailing with the NIH. Oh yeah, we know thousands of injuries are taking place, and then Bree gets flown out there. And all this is in the film. People gotta watch the film. Gotta watch the film. Like, they knew all of this. They knew all these injuries were happening, and nope, safe and effective. Safe and effective. Oh, here's another $1 billion to tell the world it's safe and effective. No mention of Maddie, Bree, all these people,
And look at Denise's email. I mean,
yeah.
Denise's email, that's actually December of 2020.
Yeah.
Prior to Christmas. Yes. So this is. Before,
I didn't know it went
here's
back
something that everybody needs to understand, is that before the public got access to these products, it was already known that they were causing harm at a level that just without anything other than just pure data and pure numbers, the incidence of harm is already at a point where you need to pull those products off the market. You know, I mean, and this happened within the medical community immediately. So here's Denise Hertz communicating with the FDA, and the FDA is coming back saying, well, we're aware of thousands of neurologic reactions, not a few hundred, not a specific number, thousands coming from a federal government agency. Right. If they say thousands, expect that to be a bigger number.
It's important for people to know that Denise has been a doctor her, 40 years. And she was just like, I didn't realize this is how our FDA operated, or our CDC. I'd always trusted it. And she got nowhere.
Yeah.
And it was just so shocking to her, which again, leads you, when you're that injured, this is happening, you know, your government knows about, and you know, she struggled with suicide, as with all the injured, because not only are you injured, you're being told, you're being totally shut out. People don't believe you. You know, there's nobody coming to help you. I mean, you wonder how people even had the will to stay alive. Like, I look at the people in your film. I look at Bree, Maddie, all of them. I mean, even Ernest, who lost his son, and they just keep moving forward. No, as Bree says, I'm not going to give up on these people.
Yeah.
And that when you have been crushed by everything and everyone around you, and you still get up, again, I just want everybody to see this film. I just really want everyone to see this film, because you tell that story so well.
Well, and thank you. And I mean, that was, you know, what I can tell you that, you know, as a filmmaker, you know, I set out to make, and we did, you know, Tyler Lindsay is my producing partner and editor on this film, and an insanely brilliant storyteller, and has been my partner for more than 20 years, and I would not know what to do without him. And so much of the reason that this movie is good is because of him, and he's brilliant. So, you know, when we set out to do this, we knew the level of integrity that this story had to take, and I don't want to admonish or you know, say anything bad about any other films out there, because it takes takes all of us doing stuff together. But there are particular tones that these subject matters can take that it doesn't reach the audience that it needs, right? Because you cannot reach people that you demonize. And unfortunately, there are people that make films that are in these topics that tend to demonize the people that are not in the film. They tend to demonize the other side instead of trying to reach them. You know, and it's to your point about forgiveness and grace and love and unconditional love, and you know, and never ceasing that, and never giving up on people. And that's exactly the heart and the soul that we put into the film, because we want it to be seen by the people that are predisposed to turn it off. I mean, I didn't make that movie for our community. For the people in this community, they're already aware of it. They're going to see it. I didn't have to worry about them. I worried about the people that wouldn't watch this movie, and that's who we designed it and made it for, is to reach them. And you know, I'm a little sad, to be honest. I mean, there's still time. The movie hasn't been out long, and it's a different day in social media and releasing things online. And I do hope that there is some things that we can do to help breach this gap, and you know, and get it to those people, because it's meant for them. But yeah.
I guess, yeah, that's what my question, you know, what is your hope? And so I guess that's your hope for the film, is that it would reach, obviously, well, let you answer that question.
Yeah. Well, we do. We want it to reach the people that would never watch this movie. We built it for the people that are going to turn it off. And that was it's a strange thing when you're making a film. You know, no other time, because I've been doing this for 22 years, no other time in any film that I've ever done are you having to think about or process how the audience is going to watch that. Like, how am I going to Trojan horse a story in a way so that you can actually like digest it and watch it and not be triggered, but be invested and be interested? You know, it's it's just strange. It's like you don't really ever have to think about the fact that an audience is going to turn this off, directly. They may not be
Right.
interested, but they're not predisposed to hear any key word or phrase
Mhm.
and go, nope, turning it off. So, but I hope that I hope that this creates a better sense of community. I hope that it heals broken relationships and families, and and helps hold people accountable and helps get people to understand. Because look, the truth is, I love my country deeply,
Mhm.
and I understand what the constitutional republic is. I know what the federal government is. I know what a democracy is, and I know the differences between these three. But I believe me when I tell you, and this is somebody who loves this country, we all have to understand, Republican, Democrat, independent, politically agnostic, the absolute most clear and present threat to our peace, to our stability, to our quality of life as American citizens is the United States federal government. It always has been, and it always will be, until reform on a level that we have never seen in this country happens.
Mhm.
And it's coming. I think we're getting into a position where there's no way to get off that path. And I think things have been even happening in the last few weeks that are even starting to paint that picture a little bit more clearly. If we're going to be the nation that our forefathers had hoped and prayed that we would be, then we have to start to realize that the problem that they saw from the beginning when they set up this system was that powerful people, the same powerful influences that had controlled Europe for all those centuries, they knew a time would come when they would weasel their way into this system and take it and move it away from its true purpose. And that has happened. And it happened a very long time ago. It happened well over 150 years ago. So we're living in a nation that we have to understand is going to come to a point, probably in the near future, that we have to deal with collectively together. And the only way we're going to do that is with no political party whatsoever. We can't be Republicans and Democrats and independents. We have to be American people who see each other as human beings, who love each other as divine reflections of some force greater than us and greater than all of the things around us. Realize that we're part of this world. We're not connected to each other. What I don't think people realize is that we quite literally are each other. I mean, there's an illusion to material existence that I think once you start to understand that, a lot of its power starts to go away. And you also start to see the majesty and the divine love and the divine work at play within the world, even in the things that seem to be evil. But the
But
only
do
way that
you,
we're,
I'm sorry, go on. Nope, finish.
no, no, I was just say the only way that we're going to really reach this place where we can create the community that I think we all want is together, really, really together.
I agree. I don't know if I'm as hopeful as you are. I don't know. I mean, I definitely agree that we have to be willing to listen to each other, to talk to each other, and maybe, I mean, there was yesterday, Ron Johnson had not a press conference, but a hearing on vaccines, and he had both those who said, vaccines are 100% safe and effective, and these are all vaccines. This wasn't just COVID, and those that had sat there and gave their stories of the tragedy of the lives of what has happened to their children after a vaccine injury. And in that room, I could tell that people were like, okay, wait, I need to listen to this. I really felt yesterday like there were some light bulbs that went off for people. And in bringing those two sides together, where what you just said, that's what needs to happen to heal. I think we saw a glimmer of that yesterday, and I would encourage people to watch that. I'll put that in the show notes as well. But what do you think? So we have with the COVID vaccine, obviously we have so many people who are injured, all this information coming out in regards to damage, whether it's to, DNA or cancers or all these different things. What is the possibility that the government's really going to say, hey, everybody, actually, we weren't quite right about these vaccines and there really could be all these problems. I don't think that that's possible. I mean, for the whole world to come out, all these countries to come out and say, huh, you all might have a ticking time bomb in you, I don't think that's possible. So what is your best hope, or what you think
Well,
would be?
um, that's a great question, and I wish that we lived in that world.
Yeah,
I wish that we lived in a world where people take accountability for their mistakes, and that we can forgive people who make mistakes, then we can figure out a way to do better. I know that we can live in that world if we decide to, but I have absolutely no hope that the federal government is ever going to do that, because the
right,
federal government does not have a history
right,
of, like I said earlier, investigating themselves and finding out they did anything wrong.
right.
I mean, you're talking about, if you get into the legality of this, and
Yeah, I don't. Everything collapses.
you're talking trillions.
Yeah,
You're
no,
talking
and you've lost
things.
total trust, and yeah,
And look, the truth is, it's already there.
yeah,
We have a corruption that is so beyond our ability to see. The reason that it doesn't change is because we refuse to see it. As long as you call it a conspiracy,
right,
it will continue.
yeah,
Let's, and just to kind of briefly talk about some of the metabolic things that are happening. When you talk about rises in cancer, so that's something that could not put in the film just because of time. There was a couple of things I had to cut out because of time that was a nightmare. And that was one of them, is cancer. I talked to oncologists in 2021, and this would have been like September, October of 21. Oncologists in the where was I? Boston or Philly? I get confused about where I was. New York,
somewhere.
somewhere in the East Coast. Deb Conrad. Deb connected me to him.
Okay,
And these oncologists, and even Deb and Nicole Landers and a variety of other nurses that I had talked to, physicians assistants, they're all seeing the same
yeah,
unbelievable rise in cancers. The oncologist told me that they had patients they were in remission for 30 years without a sign of anything. They got the vaccine, they were back and dead within 2 weeks. They said that the cancer that attacked their body was so aggressive they couldn't biopsy it before they died.
wow,
And that's where the term turbo cancer comes
yeah,
from. It comes from an aggressive form of cancer so beyond the normal aggressive forms of cancer that we're familiar with that you have to give it a new class. And that's where they started calling it turbo cancer. So when people say, oh, it's a conspiracy, I was like, well, you just didn't do any of your own, you didn't do any research on that.
right. And I think
That,
you're seeing that not just with cancers, but just in every area. I happen to be in an ER. I mean, everything's fine with one of my children, but the neurologist came in and is just like, we're just having. And he was apologizing because he didn't even get to us till the next day, and he's like, we just have so many stroke victims right now. He's like, oh, be happy you're not like all the people in the ER, with these strokes. And okay, it wasn't like 85 degrees out or whatever. This was back, and it was it was in the 60s, 60 degrees. And then to get an appointment with a neurologist, you're looking at January 26th. I have another family member who said that there was a 1,500 person waiting list. And then somebody else with cardiology. It's to get in to see a cardiologist. All of these issues. And what's sad is that people are having so many all these issues that are coming up because our government agencies haven't said, hey, be on the lookout for this. I mean, they did a bit with myocarditis, but as Joel has said, it's really the neurological issues that, are skyrocketing, that they're finding with React19. And
oh yeah,
I mean,
and that's
they're all important, but that doctors don't even know to be looking for this, and people don't even know, oh, this could be because of the vaccine. And if we could just I guess maybe the best hope is that, Jay at the NIH and Bobby there at HHS, they'll say somehow, I think Trump is the stopgap here. I think he's holding them pretty tightly as to what they can and cannot do. But that they'll at least be able to start researching, even if it's kind of through, the back end where you're just like, okay, we're going to start researching this, and at least maybe we can get funding for the CICP the vaccine, the countermeasure injury program. I mean, we know that's nothing and a huge failure, but that at least these people can be recognized and there can be legislation passed where they can get some help. I don't know that we can get any more than that. I mean, do you think we can get any more than that?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. There's a lot to unpack there. I mean, number one, the reality of it is that the federal government has the data that they need
Oh,
to make
yes.
a claim. They have the data to say there is a serious increase of harm on
Right.
all of these various conditions, neurologic conditions being off the charts. I mean, they're
Right.
completely off the charts. They're worse than anything, and that's obvious. That was one that they actively suppressed more than anything else, was the degree of neurologic reaction. So yeah, and again, just neurologic complications, right? That it's not like a cardio issue. Like a cardiac issue is kind of one system that you can have
Right.
problems with other systems, but when you have a neurologic issue, that can be a multi-system problem. So it's a
And it
totally
is.
different kind of treatment plan. The other problem, let's take myocarditis, for example. When the US government said that myocarditis could be a side effect of the Pfizer vaccine in kids, right?
Right.
Well, what they didn't tell the public is that the myocarditis that can happen from the vaccine is more like multisystem inflammatory syndrome. It's a cytokine driven inflammation, right? It's not the kind of myocarditis that you can be born with. My girlfriend has some dear friends, and one of their sons has myocarditis. He was born with it, and he lives a healthy, active, very active
Right.
life, right? And that's the thing. When they said that, oh, myocarditis is mild, you can take some
Yeah. Right.
Advil, just you'll be fine. That was the kind of myocarditis they were describing. When they knew medically it was a lie, and it was a bold-faced lie to the
I,
American people
I
and to
think
the
Kurt Milhoan, he pointed that out. I don't know if that's somebody you interviewed where he talked about, no, when we're looking at these on the echocardiogram, this is way more serious than that.
yeah. And I think, this is just me, but just based on being in this story and literally doing absolutely nothing else for the last 4 years, but this, I think that sudden adult and sudden death and sudden infant death syndrome, that where people are finding their loved ones just dead in their bed and there's no explanation. I even have a dear friend that this happened to. Um, I do believe that that is the multisystem inflammatory syndrome, the MIS. And that's another thing that's not in the film is we had an unbelievable, and I'd like to release some small pieces of this maybe.
It sounds like you need to make a mini
I,
series,
I know, but
a
the MIS is
docu
unreal.
series.
And I would. It's a lot of people are really exhausted with this because
I know.
hard to it's hard to go through constant trauma, you know, from people all the time. And keep,
However, I want to repeat something that Dean Rainey said, who is the filmmaker I interviewed last week on his film, Why Can't We Talk About This? And I asked him the same question that I asked you, do you think there'll ever be an acknowledgement? And he's like, no, he said, but what I think is that in 10 or 20 years from now, and people are going to go, what the heck happened? He said, they're going to be able to look at films like his and like yours. He specifically mentioned yours, and that'll be the evidence. They'll be able to see, oh my gosh, here you are leaving, the artifacts, you're leaving the history, which again is why it's so important that people watch this. And so, yeah. So again, I guess it just shows once again the importance of your work, and whether you do it, whether people are exhausted by it or not, if you have the will to do it or the means to do it, you're leaving something to history.
yeah. Well, and that's why we wanted to do that, and the reason that I think, you said earlier that this in Follow the Silenced, we essentially kind of told the whole story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was extremely difficult to do. But that was the kind of the magic of it, was I knew that the only way to get people to understand this, right? And I guess we didn't talk about this, but maybe we should, is just sort of how, what was the design and elements that we put in this film for it to work the way that it did. But it was, you got to tell a story like this from 40,000 feet. The reason that these things go by is when you're focused on the details is none of them seem relatable to each other, And it's only when you get that much higher perspective that
Yes,
then that's
and you
fine.
did that.
Yeah. And that's when you can really start to understand, because you don't have to try to convince anybody. You just have to tell the story as it
Right.
is, because it will tell it itself. And we wanted to. I also knew that I had to kind of do a linear and a nonlinear thing with this film. I had to give you the linear experience of the people that went through this,
Right.
because if you can unpack the last 5 years through the lens of the people that are injured from these products that are in this film and everyone like them, the moment you start to unpack the last 5 years through their lens, everything starts to make more sense.
Right.
And then you realize the censorship, you realize that all of the things that our government did that seemed suspicious, that everybody went for a minute, even if they did it to themselves, they're like, that seems a little off. That's when you, I think, can create and have new context. And I think that's one of the things that works really great about the movie, is it allows you to live through and see this movie,
So well.
or, I'm sorry, experience this story through them. And because I wanted it to feel like, most people when they make documentaries, a lot of documentary filmmakers will put themselves in the film and they will sort of, it'll be their viewpoints, it'll be
Yeah,
their,
no, yeah.
and I didn't want to do that with this movie.
Nope,
I was
you
like, no, I
didn't.
can't do that. It has to feel like they made it. It needs
And
to.
they did. They did.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like we could talk for another 3 hours, but is there anything else that you would like to let viewers and listeners know? Anything? Oh, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to the film, of course, but how can people connect with you? And yes, is there anything else that you want to say?
Sure. Well, as far as contact, yes, there's an email address on the website, so you can go to followthesilenced.com and you can see the film. The movie is free to view. There are ways to donate.
Please do.
Yeah, we have a button for React19. There's a button for the production company, Elevate, behind this. So the magic of what Mickey does with Elevate Films is he makes films for free to the public. And so people donate to them for films to get made, or they just donate because they support the work. And then we
Right.
use that money to make these movies, and then we give them for free. So you can download this film, you can host watch parties, you can rent out a theater and host it in a theater. And we
There's
want you
no
to be in
barrier.
church groups. Yeah, there's no barrier. This movie is not our film. It's not my film. It is yours. This is your film. We made this for you guys. This is the American public's. It is the world's, and it's great because I get emails all the time from people all over the world. I get
Oh, I believe it.
and it's beautiful. It's incredible to see people from that. I have to go through Google Translate to figure out who is this person and what do they want. But it's a beautiful thing to see this being shared, and people are starting to translate this into multiple languages. And it's the movie's only been out since officially May 15th, which I guess is it's 2 months now. But there's still a lot we can do with this film. There's still a lot that we can do to help spread the word on this movie.
Oh, I believe that this will be an historic film. I mean, just an artifact of history, whatever. I mean, it will be there for as long as these things can be. And that's just why it's just so important.
Yeah.
So important.
And we can, the more people that share this, the more people that talk about it. There's some things that I'd like to do to have it into smaller, more shareable little pieces that we could use on social media to, encourage people to come and watch the film. But I wanted to let people know the most important thing that we can do right now is to talk to the people that have shunned us, that have silenced us, that have turned us off, that have canceled us, that have, we have to reach back out to the people in our lives that we've lost through the last nightmare of propaganda we've been through in these past 5 years. And the only way you're going to do that is with love and humility. And this is how we go forwards. When somebody comes at you and they hit you, or they're angry at you and they strike you, the moment you strike them back, you validate everything they think about you. So whatever argument you had, whatever their feelings, even if it's misplaced, the moment that you come back in anger, you validated everything that they think about you. You want to change that? Here's how you do it. Smile at them. Tell them that you love them, and do not do anything except express pure, unconditional love to them. Because here's what happens. You act as a mirror to the darkness within that person. The moment you do not meet that person's anger with your anger, you allow them to see into their own soul, because they can see on your face their own darkness in their own hearts. And if we want to fix things, if you want this country and this world to get brighter and to get better, you have no concept of the power of this. This is world-changing, conscious-shifting action. And all it takes is to just have the patience and the grace to love that person, and love that person where they are in whatever darkness that's in their heart. Because the moment you do, you're going to allow them to see it, and then they will start to heal. And this is what Jesus came to teach us. So we should all try this. We don't have a very good history as a planet of using this, love each other, man. It's not hard.
You are absolutely right in what you're saying. It's so hard for some of the injured who are literally just wanting to die to not be angry at what's happened to them. I mean, like I know of somebody, they just lost their home. I mean, they've lost absolutely everything, and they can't get medical help, and literally they're just waiting to die. And so to tell that person, hey, just love just look at all the people that are ignoring you and nobody's calling you, and yeah, there's no help, but just love them anyway. It preaches easy, but it lives hard. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Like I don't face that every day, but I know that's a message of your film. That's certainly a message of Bree's book. I know that's where healing begins. I just don't know how that falls on the injured person's ears in a moment where they have nothing. So what do you say to that person, that injured person that literally has lost everything and now has just had to leave their home because they were evicted?
And it's a nightmare. And you're right. You're absolutely right. And trust me, but when I say these things, it by no means is it easy. It's not easy to swallow that pride or that anger or whatever it is in those moments where you have to find that grace. It's not. So don't think that I'm trying to say that it is, because it isn't easy.
Right.
It's a necessity and it's a muscle that you have to develop. You have to teach it, and you have to be patient with it. But to the people, I mean, it is okay. There is nothing wrong with being angry, with feeling loss, with feeling trauma. I mean, the first thing you need to do is recognize that you feel this way, and it is okay to feel that way, and that you have every reason to feel that way. And the next thing you have to do is realize that you have to keep going.
Yeah.
You're here. You can't go anywhere. You're here. But to the people that are going through that, you have to keep going. You have to put one foot in front of the other. You have to keep getting up. You have to turn the parts of you that are hurt and that are miserable and that are scorned, and you have to turn it into action. You have to turn it in. You have to make it the thing that you are going to fight for. You have to make that fuel to keep you going, rather than the thing that drags you down. Because that's the thing about depression, is a lot of the times it's a rock. It's this giant heavy rock that we're always like, how do I get rid of this? What do I do with this? Let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, I and you see that obviously in your film with Bree, Joel. They're just like, okay, we're not going to get any help, so we're just going to have to do it ourselves. And you look at Andre. That young man is brilliant. Him and his brother. I mean, gosh, just, and just I'm afraid I'm going to leave somebody out, but because everyone in the film is trying to push forward, and you see that. And I have to say again, I have an interview scheduled right after this one. Drew is I mean, he Guillain Barre right after. I mean, his
Oh, I
story
know
is
Drew.
horrific. What?
I know Drew. I know who you're
Yeah,
talking
well,
about now. I love
and
him so much. He's a wonderful
he
guy.
is just, I mean, you know, he's just, you know, he's like, even if you can't do much, do something. And he is just, you know, trying all these new, what are they called? Some kind of sports. I mean, he can't barely even walk, but what he's doing is so, it's so powerful. And so I'm excited to be talking to him. So yeah, I guess there's a good place to leave it, you know, just keep going. We can all each do something,
Yeah.
and we are stronger together. So I just want to encourage everybody, go watch the film, go share the film, and you know, do something to ease the load of the person next to you, and just to bring hope to the souls around you.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Matthew, thank you so much. Thank you
Well,
so
thank you,
much.
Ann.
Thank you so much for this film. I just, oh, so much for this film. And yeah, well, hopefully, you know, maybe we can connect a year from now or whatever. We didn't even talk about your next film. You're already in the midst of another film that I think is going to be incredibly powerful. So we will talk when that film comes out.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Ann. And I want to just add one thing that, you know, to those people, find that community, because that's
Yeah.
what saved so many people was the community of React 19 and those like
Yes.
them. You will never, you need people and you need community to find that strength again. And
Yes.
you got to do that. Don't hesitate. Just create that community, because you have no idea how many people out there are experiencing the same thing that just want somebody like you to talk to.
Exactly. And yes, thank you for reminding me that React 19 is, yes, here for you. I'll put the link also in the show notes. There's communities that are available. Obviously, um, React 19 tries to give out, you know, I think React 19 has given out more money than the government, besides one, like a couple of big um, um, awards that they had given out to somebody who died or something, the government. But that all, again, that all comes from you folks. That comes from the $20 you can send, or the 200 or the 2,000. So if you feel compelled to, if you feel compelled to, you want to support this film and the films that Mathew's part of, donate to him. If you want to help the injured, donate to React 19. Donate to both. Whatever you can do, just know that that is going right back out. Nobody's getting wealthy. Nobody's nothing. It's all going right. You're planting, and then they're bringing the growth in films or help to medical bills and all these things. So just you can trust. I don't know that you can trust the government. You can't trust the government, but you can trust that when you donate, it is going right to what you want it to. So go watch the film, hit the donate button, and we will look forward to talking to you on the next film.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for having me today.
Yes, thank you. Really appreciate it.